Okay. Hey guys, hey, hi. Just want to say hi.
I can't say too much as yet, but I'm going to be spending a lot more time in here with you lot, because I love it in here. I fucking love it!
Recurring rhythm of rise and fall and return to rise and fall of our levels used to keep people playing. And it simply means not going to be an effective strategy to motivate you. Rather, if you within that 12-week cycle to define very clearly how many them away over time. So visual reminders can be very effective. How badly we want a goal or how afraid we are of failure, right? All the stuff about motivation and fear of failure and desire, etc. All of that is still true, but we all have a naturally occurring rhythm of rise and fall and return to rise and fall of our levels of attention and motivation. And this is something that's been described beautifully in the scientific literature. In fact, I'll provide a link to what I consider a really nice review on this topic. This is a review that was published by Pablo Valdez in the Yale Journal of Biology and Medicine in 2019, entitled Circadian Rhythms in Attention. And there's a lot of information within this review, but we can distill out a couple of useful gems from it. So if you are somebody who is embarking on the pursuit of a goal, which is particularly hard, that's going to require a really high level of motivation and focus, know that there are 3 times during the day when you stand to have the greatest level of focus and attention.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
And of course, this will vary depending on when you went to sleep at night and when you wake up. There's natural variation in circadian rhythms, but it's worth knowing that most people find that their level of attention and motivation is going to be highest 30 minutes, 3 hours, and 11 hours after waking up. Okay, so
Get here, Nobel! Get up, you son of a bitch! Mickey loves you.
And its release is highly valuable toward getting more motivated and feeling more motivated. But that it has certain properties related to things like dopamine reward prediction error, baselines of dopamine, etc., that make it the case that if you reward yourself every time you reach a milestone, say you finish out an hour or 2 hours of work, so you treat yourself to something, you reward yourself, that you are going to diminish both the potency of that reward and you're going to reduce your motivation over time. That might be surprising to you, but if you were to watch those episodes, it would all become clear as to why that is the case. It is also true that if you were to only reward yourself when you accomplish your goal, or perhaps more commonly, if you look at the accomplishment of your goal as the only reward in the whole process of goal pursuit and achievement, that is going to undermine your probability of success as well. Rather, the best way to incorporate the mechanics of the dopamine system such that you can achieve not just immediate motivation, but ongoing motivation is to incorporate what is referred to as random intermittent reinforcement, which is what the casinos use to keep people playing. And it simply means randomly reward yourself and randomly don't reward yourself for successful completion of milestones. Those milestones could be within a bout of effort, or it could be across bouts of effort. So let's say you set out at the beginning on your piece of paper to basically, let's say, run or practice at some cognitive endeavor 4 hours total per week, and you're going to do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Should you reward yourself at the end of each session? Should you reward yourself at the end of each week? The answer is it depends, and it should depend in a random intermittent way. So the simplest way to do this is whenever you goal. Well, then it turns out, what the scientific literature tells us, is that visualizing the end, keeping the end in mind, positive visualization of all the good things that you'll experience when you achieve that goal, is not going to be an effective strategy to motivate you. Rather, if you are not feeling motivated, then what the scientific literature tells us is that you actually want to spend 1 to 3, maybe 5 minutes visualizing failure. Visualizing how terrible you will feel if you do not achieve your goal. Visualizing severe consequences, perhaps mostly of the sort like telling yourself, gosh, I set a goal, I set a 12-week block, I quantify it, I know I want to do this, here I have the time to do it, and I'm simply just not doing it. And In that case, you would think, okay, well, you should kind of build yourself up, maybe call a friend, text a friend, get some encouragement. No. The scientific literature tells us that when we are not motivated and it is a goal that we actually want to pursue, and of course here I'm talking about adaptive goal pursuit, meaning things that are going to enrich your mental health, physical health, etc., not things that are going to be detrimental to us. Well, then, if you're not feeling motivated, you want to spend 1 to 3, perhaps 5 minutes meditating, concentrating on what it's going to feel like to fail and the fact that you are not succeeding, but indeed that you are failing. And I know this sounds like rather harsh advice, that this protocol sounds like kind of a self-flagellating protocol. It's not intended to be self-flagellation. In fact, it should not be self-flagellation, but rather what you want to do when you are not motivated is to think about failure and what that failure at the end of 12 weeks will feel like. And the reason for that is that the data tell us that when we visualize positive outcomes, yes, it deploys certain neurochemicals in our brain and body that make us feel good. Although, frankly, if you've heard that imagining something, scientific literature on goal setting and pursuit, is that you establish a roughly 12-week period of time to focus on your specific goal. Now, of course, achieving the entire goal might take longer than 12 weeks, but chances are it's not going to take shorter than 12 weeks. Although if it does, you could simply close out that goal pursuit and then pursue another goal. There's no reason you couldn't do that. But there's nothing magical about this 12-week period, but it seems to adhere to a number of things in society and culture and work schedules, in seasonality, meaning the holidays and the shifts in the overall seasons, that works for most goals and most people. So a 12-week cycle, or roughly a 3-month cycle, sometimes called the quarterly cycle, of goal pursuit toward your particular goal, I think is a good macro time to focus on. And then within that 12-week cycle, to define very clearly how many hours each week and each day, and on which days you will pursue that goal. Okay, so it's 12-week cycle to pursue your goal. That goal might be achieved by the end of that 12 weeks, or even prior, it might not be. But you set a 12-week cycle or quarterly cycle, or if you prefer to think about it, a 3-month cycle. And then you define how many hours per week you are going to spend pursuing that goal. And then you define how many hours per day you are going to spend pursuing that goal. And then you define which days of the week you are going to pursue that particular goal. I think those three numbers, the 12-week quarterly, aka 3-month cycle, the number of hours per week, and the number of hours per day and particular days that you're going to spend working on a goal, is going to be effective for 90%, if not more, of different types of goals out there. And as with defining the specific goal itself, I highly recommend that you write this down with a pen or pencil. There's just so much. Now I'd like to mention 2 popular myths about goal setting and pursuit. The first one is that if we set a Post-it, a little Post-it sticky where you write down what you're trying to achieve and you put that on the refrigerator or you put that on your mirror, that it increases the probability that you are going to stick to your goal. Turns out that is not the case. And the reason for that is that your visual system adapts to whatever is regular in your environment. Doesn't matter whether or not that environment is sparse, so it only has a few things in it, or whether or not it is dense, like a forest. Anything that shows up regularly in our visual environment gets canceled out. This is actually a basic feature of the way your visual system is wired. So for those of you that are taking a sticky note or a magnet or a sign and putting it on your mirror and leaving it there from day to day, maybe that says, run 60 minutes today or study French 20 minutes or whatever the goal happens to be. If you leave it there day to day to day, it actually diminishes the likelihood of progress. I know that seems kind of hard to believe, but it's true. Instead, a better approach is to continually write that thing out each day and put up a new sticky, put it in a new place, perhaps on the refrigerator, sometimes in the kitchen, maybe on the windshield of your car, although of course remove that while you're driving, etc. If you are going to incorporate visual reminders in your goal setting and goal pursuit process, you want to change those each and every day. This is actually something that perhaps app developers will start to incorporate, because I think the notifications that come through on various apps designed to remind us to do certain things can be helpful, but there too, we tend to attenuate to them. And we simply either do not notice them or we start to swipe them away over time. So visual reminders can be very effective. If you want to use them, great. You certainly don't have to. But if you're going to use them, you want to promise that you will be far more satisfied with the results if you can truly set a priority. So once you've defined the specific goal that you are going to prioritize, there are two more things that you need to do before you start to pursue that goal. The first one is that you need to define the specific verbs, the actions that are involved in pursuing that goal. This is absolutely critical. A lot of people will set a sort of title goal or a goal state. They'll say, I want to be rich, or I want to be smart, or they will say, I want to be fit or proficient in a given language. It's really important that you put additional specificity on your goal. In fact, it's important that you put a lot of specificity on your goal and that you focus mainly on verbs when defining that specificity. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this that have to do both with increasing the probability that you will achieve your goal, as well as maintaining motivation as you pursue that goal. So for instance, rather than saying you want to be fit or you want to be a better runner or swimmer, you would want to get very specific about the verb that you're going to engage in order to achieve that goal. Now, it's somewhat obvious in the case of running or swimming. I think everyone understands that if you want to be a better runner, there is going to be some running involved. If you want to be a better swimmer, there's going to be some swimming involved, of course. But presumably there will be some other behaviors as well. Everything from driving to the pool or lacing up your shoes. I mean, there's an essentially near infinite number of verbs involved in any type of goal do I want to pursue. And the first protocol for deciding what goal you want to pursue is actually a quite simple one in terms of how it's stated, but it's fairly complex for a lot of people to answer. And that is, which specific goal are you going to try and pursue? Because guess what, folks? Most people who try to achieve many goals simultaneously fail at all of them. This is what I call the overhaul approach. When people think, okay, on January 1 or next month or next week, or perhaps even today, I'm going to start exercising, I'm going to start meditating, I'm going to learn a language, I'm going to learn to dance, I'm going to do all these different things. And that's just too many goals. I think here is an appropriate place to highlight the word priority. A priority literally means one thing that you place ahead of all others. These days we hear a lot about priorities, plural. But we really should be thinking about priority and defining our priority.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.